So usually I say I'm honored to be able to rise in this place and have this participate in a debate, but I am discouraged and disappointed with the rhetoric, the deflections coming from members of the Liberal caucus as well as from the NDP, their coalition cover-up partners, on this debate. We are dealing with a prima facie case of the violation of privilege in this House. And, you know, I've been here for almost 20 years, and I love this institution. I am incredibly honored and still overwhelmed that the constituents Selkirk and Lake Eastman have sent me here on 7 different occasions. And to see the government trying to deflect and protect the Speaker, who has now been found in a prima facie case of privilege on multiple occasions, and defend that behavior, to me, is disappointing, to say the least. And really, I'm disgusted by it. Just to remind everyone here, and you know, I'm such a parliamentary nerd. You know, I read the House of Commons procedure and practice. You know, we're on their 3rd edition. You know, I started off reading O'Brien Bosk. Now I'm reading Bosk and Young. I make sure that I read through the book at least once every session. You know, when I'm at the beginning of every parliamentary sitting, the fall sitting, I reread Chapter 20 in particular, but always Chapter 3 as well, because of committee operations and work that we do, and as a vice chair, that I knowing that I have to sit in there. But just to remind everyone, in Chapter 3, the very first page, it says, and so Chapter 3, of course, is on parliamentary privileges and immunity. And it says, the rights accorded to the House and its members allow them to perform their parliamentary functions unimpeded are referred to as privileges or immunities. And the Deputy Speaker found in the case of the Speaker that he has violated our privileges. A prima facie case that he violated our privileges. And what did he violate? His impartiality. And again, referring to Chapter 7, the Speaker and other presiding officers of the House, and the impartiality of the Chair on page 323. When in the Chair, the Speaker embodies the power and authority of the office, strengthened by rule and precedent. He or she must at all times show, and he be seen to show, the impartiality required to sustain the trust and goodwill of the House. That is why the Speaker is now in trouble, because he has not been able to maintain that impartiality. And in fact, we have seen on multiple occasions, we're talking 6, 7 times now, that the Speaker has been called out, caught, and charged for acting impartial. And when it comes down to it, Madam Speaker, the Speaker is the guardian of the rights and privileges of all of us as members of the House of Commons, so that we can enjoy our free speech and other privileges that we have. And it says on page 317, it is the responsibility of the Speaker to act as the guardian of the rights and privileges of members and the House as an institution. It goes on to say, freedom of speech may be the most important of the privileges accorded to members of Parliament. It has been described as a fundamental right, without which they could be hampered in the performance of their duties. It permits them to speak in the House without inhibition, to refer to any matter or express any opinion as they see fit in what they say and what they feel needs to be said in the furtherance of the national interests and the aspirations of their constituents. Now, Madam Speaker, when you talk about impartiality, when you talk about preserving our freedom of speech, we have the case where what we're dealing with right now is that the Speaker held a fundraiser. It's not that he held a fundraiser, which was in error, because all of us as parliamentarians have to raise money to be able to fight elections. The Speaker has that right. The previous Speaker, that they always refer to as the House Leader of the Conservative Party, had that right as well. But what was wrong in this case is that the Speaker's EDA, his Electoral District Association, advertised this as a summer evening with the Speaker, and they used inflammatory partisan language against the leader of the official opposition, the Conservative leader. And they said that Conservatives would propose reckless policy that would risk our health, safety, and pocketbooks. That is where the prima facie case of privilege was violated because they used inflammatory language. Again, that undermines the Speaker in his ability to maintain impartiality. Now, we know also that in the issue of freedom of speech, that he, not that long ago, threw out first the member of Lethbridge, who used unparliamentary language, withdrew that comment, but still, it's in the blues. So they may want to talk about it, but it was in the blues. And then it was edited out. And we still need to get that ruling, Madam Speaker, on who made that edit. The second thing is, right following that, then threw out the leader of the official opposition, the leader of the Conservative Party, the member of Parliament for Carleton, because of inflammatory language. But didn't apply that fairly, because even though the word wacko was used to describe the Prime Minister, the Prime Minister also, before that, had used inflammatory language, calling the leader spineless. And there's no action, no withdrawal, no apology seek, no ejection from the chamber by the Speaker, again undermining and proving that our Speaker is not impartial. Now, Madam Speaker, on those occasions, we talk about freedom of speech. But we also have to talk about the maintenance of being nonpartisan, of being impartial. And it says, again, on Chapter 7, under the roles of the Speaker, it says on page 324, in order to protect the impartiality of the office, the Speaker abstains from all partisan political activity, which includes not going to caucus meetings, never mind attending Liberal fundraisers. And so when you have, the first time the Speaker got caught, he attended a fundraising dinner for a neighboring Liberal. That's not allowed. He can do his own, but he's not allowed to attend other Liberal fundraisers. He then, by video, addressed in a Liberal, dressed in his robes, full Speaker garb, and addressed the Ontario Liberal Party Leadership Convention. I actually filed, Madam Speaker, a complaint with the Procedure and House Affairs Committee of misuse of government resources, of House resources, to further partisan activities, of which the Speaker was found guilty of in order to pay a fine. So again, here we go, supposed to be impartial, not. And we also know that the Speaker went down to Washington on the taxpayer dime and gave a speech about being a young Liberal down in D.C. This Speaker continues to do partisan activities, behaves from a partisan position when occupying the chair, and undermines the individual rights, freedoms, and immunities that all of us are supposed to enjoy. Instead of being the guardian of our rights, he has ejected Conservative members. He has given a pass to the Prime Minister. And it is because of this overall being, I don't know what the appropriate term here would be, I don't want to be unparliamentary, but his ongoing loyalty to the Liberal Party and not to this chamber, Madam Speaker, is what has caused the situation we find ourselves in. For any other members in this House, from the Liberals or their coalition cover-up partners in the NDP, to stand here and say that this Speaker is impartial, they are sadly mistaken. They are only, and the NDP really, I'm so disappointed in, is that they have always stood on the grounds that we protect this institution. They are actually helping to undermine our democratic principles, the respect and honor that this chamber is supposed to hold, by continuing to support the Liberals in their ongoing reckless spending, as well as protect the Speaker, who has not done the job. Madam Speaker, this House is seized with a question. The government has moved the motion to limit debate. The House, under the rules, are supposed to be seized with a question of privilege and rise here and discuss this and debate it and try to convince one another that we're right or wrong. It's unfortunate the NDP and the Liberals are working together to protect the Speaker and his unparliamentary behavior. So I beg the question to the Speaker, will he do the right thing and resign?
He should. questions and comments. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, the Government House Leader.
Yes, Madam Speaker, for those that would have listened in yesterday or tuning in today, let there be no doubt that this is nothing more than a Conservative Reform Party tactic. That's all it is, Madam Speaker. The issue that's before us is something that is being used to try to say something that's not true. And instead of having a debate on issues that Canadians are having to face day in and day out, the Conservatives continue to play and choose to play a destructive force here on the floor of the House of Commons. We will continue to be focused on the needs of Canadians as the Conservatives will continue to play this destructive force, Madam Speaker. My question to the member opposite is, when will the Conservatives get away from playing their destructive games and start focusing on what's in the best interest of Canadians and start to support the initiatives that are coming through in legislation and in budgetary measures?
The Honourable Member Selkirk Interlake Eastman.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. And a member from Winnipeg North, again, is up here deflecting and misleading, especially his own constituents, on the seriousness of the issue that we're grasped with. He is contemptuous in his comments, saying that there is nothing to see here, folks. This is all make-believe. It's all fake, which we've heard from the other side and the Liberals throughout the day. And I can tell you that we are seized with a ruling by the Deputy Speaker that someone in this place violated our privilege. And that takes precedent over anything else that we are debating in this House. And for him to say that, look the other way, nothing to see here, folks, is wrong, misleading, and he deserves to be more honest when he's dealing with his own constituents, never mind the rest of Canada.
Time for a brief question. The Honourable Member for Cypress Hills Grasslands.
Well, Madam Speaker, I think that the Speaker learned from the best, because he was the Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister, and as we know, the Prime Minister has 3 ethics violation reports in his own name, so perhaps he learned it from the Prime Minister, this particular type of behaviour. I'm wondering what my colleague has to say about that.
Answer from the Honourable Member Selkirk Interlake Eastman.
I agree with my colleague from Saskatchewan that the Prime Minister himself, as Prime Minister, as well as before when he was in the third party, had numerous violations and called to account for use of unparliamentary language, for breaching privilege in this House, of elbowing an NDP member of Parliament, a female, in trying to push on a vote quicker than what should be taking place. Instead of respecting this place, the Prime Minister has always shown contempt, and that is emulating in our Speaker in the House of Commons, and it has to end now.